more tape for Sweden because they are playing largely as a whole here for Portugal to try and take advantage of.
All right, guys. Well, it's time for the match to begin. It will be Portugal facing off against Sweden. I'm really pumped to see how this one plays out, and who better to be your casters for this game than Monty and Doa. Take it away.
All right, thanks, Golden Boy. Monte Cristo and Doa here. Guys, we're about to see Portugal versus Sweden. Should be an interesting one. Sweden, obviously, a ton of individual talent on the team. Most of misfits, a couple extra guys. Then you got Portugal with that shot calling coming from the Laser Kittens players, Mozasa and Gray. You had an Addicted, who they told us was going to be a rising superstar. I think this is going to be a great match.
Yeah, I do think we have to say that overall, though, the Misfits roster has not been doing very well recently. We look at their results from TakeOver, we look at their results from Contenders, and they've been disappointing for a roster with this much talent, with a player like Tvik, who many consider the world's best. But they seem to have at least fixed some of these issues, pairing up Swoosh, and especially, you have to say, Chips Hyan coming in from Envy, because he is undoubtedly top 2 Western support with Unco, and that is a major upgrade with a Misfits roster that has been struggling to find that synergy with their supports.
Yeah, that's great, too, and where we saw so much Sombra last week in Shanghai in the earlier World Cup phase, the ability to play that hero well, which we know Chips really can, is going to come in very handy for Sweden.
And this should be a Sombra battle. You know, we didn't see that much Sombra in the last map, but turning over to Portugal, Gray is a player that has been phenomenal on the Sombra so far, doing very well on Laser Kittens, and considering the core of the shot calling has remained intact from Laser Kittens with Mozasa, that's the key to victory here for Portugal, is simply having better target selection and having better control over all 6 players as a unit, because Misfits has looked a bit discombobulated coming into this event, and now, you know, they don't have that same synergy with their 2 players that they've added on to this roster.
I'm really curious to see if it's actually going to pan out that way. You know, is it going to be just like really strong shot calling that carries Portugal through, you know, or will Sweden sort of be able to bring this group together, kind of clean up a little bit of what we saw from Misfits when they struggled a bit at TakeOver, and kind of use that individual talent that we know exists on the team to kind of win. I think on paper, you have to kind of give Sweden the edge coming into this one, but Portugal definitely does have a lot going for them.
Yeah, you absolutely do, because just pound for pound, the Sweden roster can simply outplay their counterparts on Portugal, because we only have these 2 players from the Portugal side that are currently at the professional level.
I suppose we should say like kilogram by kilogram, because he's a European player. So we have to be respectful of that. That's right. Kilo for kilo. They're a great team. You know, maybe somewhere else it'd be stone for stone. I don't know.
Yeah, we'll save that one for the UK roster.
There you go.
All right. Stone for stone.
We're starting things off on Hollywood, guys. Portugal on the defense in the blue, Sweden attacking in the red. And I would love to see Tvik stay on that Hanzo, but of course he gets in a swap over the Tracer. His Hanzo is incredibly fun to watch, though. We got to cast it in Korea way back when.
Yeah, we did. Absolutely fantastic. Chips not going to be on the Ana, is going to switch over to the Zenyatta for the attack. Standard 2-2-2 dive composition from Sweden.
Sure enough.
And Portugal will be running with Gray on the Sombra. No surprise there.
All right, Tvik on that Tracer right off the bat, trying to get around for a flank. And if they can do that, they really need to watch out for Gray, though. He could cause a lot of problems, but that's Tvik winning the early duel. And actually,
that's a huge pick.
Oh, I predicted that one. I didn't think it'd end right there. Yeah, good man advantage for Sweden here.
Forced him back to the health back with the recall, and then there was no actual translocator left for him, so very fast assault here by Sweden.
Oh, they did lose to Vic right after that, but Sweden has a great position on the point right now, and that just might be it. Portugal re-engaging. But we'll see if Reinforce can force people back. Chips Hyan gets that kill into Horthic right away. And it looks like Sweden should continue to follow through and take point A.
Yeah, Zebasai barely living there on the Lucio, popping back inside the Winston's shield with about 10 HP remaining.
Yeah.
Keeps their heals up at least, and that'll be a quick cap on the payload, so Sweden already rolling.
Wow, yeah, and immediately starting to take that high ground in the streets phase. When you get into Westworld like this, whatever team can race to the high ground first generally has a pretty big edge. And Sweden, with the way that fight just kind of panned out, got there a little bit sooner.
Yeah, it's smart, too, to post up there as soon as you can. They do have the high mobility heroes to go ahead and control that high ground, not having to wait for the elevators. To searching for that pulse bomb target. Not going to commit it just yet. There it is.
Lucio, wow, tosses a pulse bomb behind the bar, and Lucio, no drink served up there, only dead.
And EMP already used on Swoosh, but they're not going to be able to pick up very many kills on the backside of it. So Swoosh just manages to hang on to his Dragon Blade, not using it. Ult management good for Sweden so far. Very patient.
I'm surprised at just how much space Sweden could create coming into this phase, too. I mean, it takes a while for the payload to get moving on Hollywood, and you saw Tavik and a bunch of other members really far up, and Portugal was just kind of zoned out of really putting up any sort of defense for a while.
Yeah, Gray with an EMP is going to drop it.
Yeah, immediately the sound barrier comes in for Sweden, though he missed Zepasai on that EMP, and Swoosh with the Dragon Blade, what can he get? Slashing away, but it's hard to cut through that barrier. Gets one onto Zepasai at the end, well, via Horthic anyway. And Sweden still pushing forward. Not a lot of members of Portugal left to defend this payload.
No, and Horthic really got nothing done, unfortunately, with the Dragon Blade after he pulled it out. Trying to fight Swoosh, ended up losing the duel, and now it's just cleanup here for Sweden.
Yeah, Tavik biding his time. Oh, thought he was going to get chased. Went for the pulse bomb stick, but didn't quite land that. Mauzaza bouncing away, but that payload still moving. Portugal's got to get this thing stopped. Sweden really has not been slowed down yet at all.
Chips has already taken out Addicted and Gray on this push, so doing a lot of damage from that support line.
There's the sound barrier now for Portugal. This is their chance to come in here. Swoosh trying to cut away at the back line, though. Starting to get Fath a little bit low. He is down. There's a Transcendence for Sweden. They want to complete their point B push right here. And they're going to go ahead and pop Kyler out of the mech, and that should be about it. EMP, though, coming in again for Gray. Maybe an opportunity. Nope, for Portugal.
I just
didn't even finish the sentence.
No, you don't even have to finish that sentence. The EMP is not going to do enough in order for them to take this fight. Payload still moving as Sweden picks off the remaining members. Very one-sided push so far.
You know, when it comes down to it, having good shot calling only pays off when your team can get in position to sort of like make a play. And Sweden's been so good about preventing Portugal from getting really any sort of setup.
Yeah, absolutely. And Portugal also using so many ults, committing the sound barrier, committing the EMP.
Yeah.
Problematic when you're trying to defend here in this final point. And Sweden's coming up on a wealth of ultimates to use, pushing through the studio.
Well, Portugal's got a few as we see them come around the corner. They're going to have the Dragon Blade soon. Mauzaza has the Primal Rage. Addicted has the Pulse Bomb. Sound barrier for Sweden as they keep trying to push forward. Reinforce just walking in there. They pop the self-destruct again for more zoning. And Reinforce, man, I have not seen a Winston on his own do so much on a push as I have with Reinforce these last few seconds.
And that's brutal, just waiting for the translocator back into the health back team, forcing Gray Sombra back, and that means they're going to start camping the doors. And guess what? Chipsian has an EMP. It's going to be a miracle for Portugal to get on this payload.
Yeah, moving into the payload. Where's the stop? They got to get out there. Portugal jumping in. Last-ditch effort. EMP gets popped, and Horthic does get one kill early on. Addicted, though. I think he killed himself with his own pulse bomb, and it's a brawl on the payload. Sweden maybe pushed back a little bit, but it is close right now. There's the kill from Tavik onto Mauzaza. That's exactly what Sweden needed. They are going to finish it. No, not quite. Addicted taken out. There we go. 3:08 on the clock for Sweden. Not a bad attack round.
That is a very good attack from Sweden. Barely held up at all, even though we saw both the EMPs going down in that last fight. Sweden able to focus the targets just a little bit better. And they're making it look pretty easy so far, but we'll see if Portugal can come back and have as decisive on offensive round.
We will see. Just a great start for Sweden, though. And I mean, you go back to kind of the key points we were talking about for each of these teams, and Portugal kept talking about how their shot calling was what they felt really was going to set them apart. But again, just the way that Sweden was able to send people like Tavik in there and prevent any sort of setup from occurring for Portugal. You can't make plays if you can't get to the line.
No,
in sports terms.
Yeah, you have to. And what was preventing them too was those initial pickoffs. I mean, when we saw the attack come through, it was Tavik getting the initial kill onto Gray, killing that Sombra very quickly. Really delays, of course, that EMP key usage that you need in order to hold that first point. And also, we look at Chips High and getting the, back-to-back kills
so good, man.
onto Addicted and onto Gray. So when you get the initial pick from your support like that, when you are holding angles and can really charge up and one-shot people on the Zenyatta, there's not really a chance for Portugal to stop it. They sort of have to trickle in and throw themselves at the payload one by one just to slow it down. But you're not winning a fight. And when you do that, you're sort of giving ult charge advantage to Sweden at the same time. Because they can focus you down very easily. So it becomes very problematic. So Portugal really needs to, I think, play a little bit trickier and try and avoid those early pickoffs. And that's going to come down to some shot calling that they've got to pull through with.
Well, Sweden posting up on the defense now here on Hollywood. All the railings have been eliminated, so we're ready to go for the defense. No railings means it's time.
Looks like Sweden's going to be playing pretty far forward here. We're not going to see,
for the moment,
the Sombra on Hollywood. And Tank's peeking around the corner right now. Portugal, Gray is on the Reaper, interestingly enough. So this should be a low-range brawl on the point. He's going to stick with it right now.
He hit a little bit at the beginning, too. I mean, everybody knows Chips and all those other Ana players like to get that biotic grenade right at the beginning for a bit of ult percentage. Gray knowing that, wisely holding back, and now we'll see how much of a surprise this is. They're going to dive onto the high ground for Cafe right away. Gray gets in there. He's got that health back, and now with Reaper healing off the auto attacks, he might be able to stick around a bit. Fat does go down early, though, and there goes Gray. Not a great start for Portugal.
You can see the reactive play there from Sweden. When they see all these lower range heroes coming through, they back off on the point, try and use their soldier to get some poke down. And
oh, that's devastating, man. Kyler popped out of the mech right at the very end, and you can see Sweden not chasing. They're like, we want this guy to go back to spawn and maybe switch out to get his mech back. Otherwise, it's such a long delay. This is actually worse than being killed if you're D.Va in this situation.
It's a pretty horrible situation, and he is going to have to swap it back.
Yeah, he has to give up his ult percentage to get his mech back. That is, it wasn't a lot, of course. It was only the first attack, but that still hurts.
Definitely does. So Sweden just going to play as a death ball here on the backside, not really contesting the Cafe.
Yeah. Ortha coming in. We saw Mauzasa going down really early. That engage not working out for Portugal just yet. They're going to go ahead and give the nano boost over to Swoosh on that Soldier 76, but he may not even really need it, man. No. I think they already had that fight cleaned up before they used it.
I mean, they did have 6 ults available, so if you're going to try and for a long hold here with Portugal still with 2.5 minutes, commit to it, go ahead and clean up that fight because you have plenty more tools to work with.
You'd expect to need it there. So it's hard not to blame them, but they gave it to him and everyone just kind of instantly died. He's like, oh well.
Yeah, it's answering a lot of questions for us about Sweden, but we're going to see the Genji come in.
That is a really aggressive move by Horthic. Mauzasa's taken out by the self-destruct though from Manitan, and you know, I think Horthic went in there a little bit early, a little bit by himself, and Sweden just collapsed on the guy, and now, wow. There's no Symmetra teleporter back there, guys. There's not a lot of reason to jump back there like there normally would be, but...
Well, Sweden's just playing a very reactive style right now to the dive from Portugal, catching them every time and then selecting the right targets. Maybe a bit ambitious to engage with a Dragon Blade. It's hard to do that unless you have a lot of protection, either with a Nano Boost or a Zarya shield for your Genji. Typically in this meta, we are seeing more Winston engages with the shield and D.Va as well, but got a little bit ahead there, and that's going to be a pretty quick kill onto the Genji.
True enough. Swoosh has that Orb of Discord on him, but he should be safe back behind the boxes. And now a more measured engage for Portugal. They're going to come in with a sound barrier. Sweden immediately responding. They're going to dive deep and try to split Portugal up right now. Falling back to the payload. Oh, 2 kills. Kyler gets 2 with the self-destruct. Whoa, that was not what Sweden was expecting. And this is the opportunity Portugal's been looking for. Vic needs to come up big with this pulse bomb. Gotta wait for that Transcendence to end, and then we'll see what he can do. Portugal getting a lot of kills, though. I think this point is pretty much done. Yeah, Vic taken out. Doesn't bother using that ult. So Sweden, you know, after losing people, they decided, all right, we're going to hold back, not use the ults, giving it up gracefully, you know?
Yeah, you look at that, though, there was an opportunity there for a sound barrier. Sweden thought that they had Portugal zoned out because Reinforce was using the Primal Rage to knock back 2 players, but they weren't counting on that self-destruct. They didn't have good comms when it came to tracking the D.Va ultimate, and that allowed them to bypass that defense, get it over the top, and punish the members of Sweden who are backed into that corner once again.
They're on board with Addicted now for the moment. The Tracer on the Portugal side, rumor has it this kid is going to be a breakout star, so we'll have to kind of watch for that. This is not his time, though. Not this particular push, anyway, as Sweden comes back and defends the payload for the moment. It's a little bit of pushing for Portugal, but they're going to need to regroup a bit here.
Don't really have to commit any ultimates there, but still defending right at the start of the run for point B.
Wow, self-destruct coming in really fast for Sweden. Just lobbing it in there to kind of buy some more time. Orthic pulls out the Dragon Blade, though. Where's the defense? Sound barrier for Sweden immediately, and he'll be taken out by Swoosh's tack visor. Great response from Sweden. They were so ready for that. Portugal getting a few kills on their side, though, so in the end, this payload is going to keep moving.
That actually ended up pretty well for Portugal because they forced so much out of Sweden. It still managed to go ahead and take the fight. Initial pick's important there. Only really using that Dragon Blade, and Sweden overcommitting to that. And now Portugal's going to be in a huge ult economy advantage. So looking good for them on point B.
I mean, when you kill that Genji, right, when he pulls out the Dragon Blade, that gives you a lot of confidence. And sometimes it causes you to go in a little bit too aggressively. And I think Sweden got bit by that a little bit there.
Well, they were posted behind the payload, so positioning was vulnerable. They were grouped up.
And more fights on the payload now. Reinforce going to go ahead and pop that Primal Rage, and that's actually going to draw the Transcendence from Portugal. We'll see what they can get. Sound barrier used a little bit early there, and Sweden can just fall back and kind of let this one go a little bit. They stop it, but they don't really commit to anything. Now that the sound barrier is out of the way, they can go back in again. We'll see if they can win this fight.
Target selection just not there for Portugal. Zebazai has been getting so low over the course of this entire map, but they're never quite able to finish him off. And then he just heals up and re-enters the fray. They need to be able to pick off these supports, and Portugal using both of their own support ultimates there, Sound Barrier and Transcendence, is going to make things very dicey.
Oh, that Transcendence was okay, but that Sound Barrier was really poorly advised, man. I mean, Sweden, all they had to do was just pull back and wait it out.
I mean, both of those ultimates, it was a pretty easy disengage from Sweden. And again, they have been playing a more reactive style here. Patience has been the key for them, and they're forcing Portugal to use a lot of ultimates that they'd rather not commit to.
We're down to just 20 seconds now, and with not much time remaining on the clock, Portugal does not want to lose people like they're losing them right now. Swoosh grabs 2 with the Dragon Blade, and Sweden in prime position to end this push pretty early for Portugal.
Yeah, Gray's going to switch back to the Sombra just to get to the payload in time and see what he can pull off.
Yep. And this may be about it, guys. Remember, Portugal needs to finish their offensive round to have any chance to keep going in this map. And Reinforce with the kill onto Gray is going to maybe stop it right there, right now. Self-destruct comes in for Sweden, just trying to force Portugal off the point. They go ahead and drop the Transcendence as well. And it is desperation mode for Portugal, and they just have nothing left at this point. Kyler taken out by that Pulse Bomb, and as OT ticks away, Sweden is going to take Hollywood.
Very nicely done from Sweden. We had questions, what would this team's synergy look like with very few actual matches of practice under their belt, but that was impressive regardless.
I would say, it wasn't perfect. We saw a couple things here and there, but overall looked really tight from Sweden and Portugal. That shot calling from Mauzasa, from Gray, the individual plays from Addicted hasn't quite been coming through yet.
I did think they did a very good job of counteracting the playstyle we saw with the Diva self-destruct on that point A in Hollywood. They realized that Sweden, their pattern of defense was always falling very far back to the point, and when they saw Reinforce forward, they realized that they were going to have an opportunity to shoot the self-destruct over the top and catch the members of Sweden in the back in the open to get those kills, which allowed them to cap. So
that's a great point.
You did see some strategic reactions, I think, from Portugal over the map, but tough to beat Sweden.
It is tough, no doubt. I mean, this is a world-class cast here on Sweden, and I mean, it's a world-class cast from us too.
I was going to say.
Cast of players, cast of casters. I don't know. Hey, there we are. World-class. Yeah. Well, you know what? I think it's going to be interesting seeing what happens on this control map next, because this is kind of Portugal's opportunity really to start brawling and show where some of that individual skill comes in. Again, remember when we talked to these guys just yesterday, a couple days ago, they kept telling us Addicted is the player you want to watch out for. This kid has a lot of talent apparently, and they really see him as kind of a rising star from that country.
Yeah. Absolutely, and we're going to see, looks like it will be Lijiang Tower selected next for Portugal.
Yeah.
Important to note, that was Sweden's map. That was their pick to start things off. So see if Portugal can bounce back on something that may be a little bit more to their taste.
Lijiang Tower, and we're going to start out in the night market. And, well, no, we're just going to start out with a map fly through, and we'll see where we start out later.
The mystery is still going to
That's
see which one we actually do end up on.
What did they control in the control center for Lijiang Tower?
I have no idea. I don't know
Just the
anything about the
electronics in the
lore
building,
of this
or-
map. I don't know why they're fighting here.
I'm just asking.
No clue.
You're good at analyzing things, Monte Cristo. So I'm asking you to analyze this map and tell me what you think they're controlling here.
I think they're controlling the AC system for the entire tower. There you go.
You know, Occam's razor states that that's the most likely story. You know, AC could be just the internet that runs through the building, perhaps. Yeah, it's about right. I'll accept that.
After last week, I know how much you need air conditioning in China. So.
Oh man, yeah.
You gotta control that.
Dude, it was hot. Like in Shanghai, guys, last week, it hit like including humidity, it hit about 117 Fahrenheit. That's like what, 43, 44 Celsius, something like that?
Something like that. I mean, I just prefer Fahrenheit because it's more accurate at the temperatures at which human beings live. So come at me, Celsius lovers.
I learned a bit about the old Celsius when I was living in Korea, but never quite got it memorized. We are going to start out on Gardens, guys. Portugal in the blue, Sweden in the red once again. And we'll see if Portugal can come back, tie up this series with a map, win on control.
We'll be Tracer Soldier with longer sight lines on this particular map. You do have an opportunity to post up as Soldier and try and shoot directly into the point with less danger to yourself.
Yeah, true enough, Sweden backing off into the house a little bit. That's going to let Portugal maybe back onto the point, but no, they're going to chase in, reinforce a little bit on his own. Now gets a bit of support from his team as Manitin comes in on the Diva. Reinforce diving deep, trying to get in the back lines, trying to roast Fat. Fat has to bounce away. I know, right? It's delicious.
It does sound delicious.
The point is opening up, though, so this is a chance for somebody to grab it. Sweden taking the early control meter. We'll see if they can grab it first. Looks like they will. Yes, Zebasai just kind of sitting on the point. And that's going to be it for him.
Sweden there, you can see their superior target selection, Doa. It was Chips and Tavik combining for the kill onto Addicted. So they've got their targets picked out. They're focusing them down with a lot of efficiency so they can take that man advantage in a fight and snowball it.
Not bad. Sweden just playing this point a little bit far back. They've got that long range from Sush. Whoa! Nearly a long range pick onto Sush. Got to be careful. Got to watch out for those Zenyatta right clicks, man. You know Gray can land those. Tavik running around the outside. Sound barrier to contest with, but as soon as it's out, he can drop that pulse bomb. Transcendence now coming in for Portugal, though. And Sweden biding their time. Here we go. Pulse bomb comes in, and that's one onto Addicted. Think it popped. Yeah, it did pop Diva out of the suit as well. And Tavik going on a tear, man, on that Tracer. And Sweden should be able to hold this point.
Well, Tavik nailed the pulse bomb to the Diva mech, and then the drive-by around managed to catch Addicted as Diva was in flight around the central pillar. And that's going to be another cleanup here for Sweden. Again, you can see how reactive they are playing here, just backing off when they see the support ults come in. And Portugal's got to be more coordinated on these approaches. Once that sound barrier goes down, once the trance goes down, you have to commit and find a way to get the kills.
Very true. Well, Zebosai falls early, so an opportunity for Portugal now, getting a couple of them. They got Swoosh as well. And wow, Orthic gets 3 with the tack visor, and that is going to be a point flip. No doubt.
Finally opening it up, but there was a pretty dear cost to that. However, Sweden's ult economy has been mostly reset. And they're going to be trying to work their way back up. So Portugal,
they've got time, right?
They do have time. And we'll take a look at Gray here. Transcendence going to be absolutely crucial. And they get the proper timing this time.
Well, Sweden going in hard early, trying to flip this point. Portugal backed up a little bit. Tavik claims an early victim in Malzasa, has that pulse bomb again already. And again, as soon as this Transcendence is up, this bomb is going to get stuck to somebody. You know it. There we go. Like I said, man, that's what happens. Great. Stuck by Tavik, and Sweden should be able to clean this one up and flip the point right back again.
It's going to be pretty easy for them. Sweden, again, second on the support ult, so they've got the tail end of the fight in their favor with all that Transcendence healing.
Yeah.
Portugal can't quite burst through the damage, and the patience there from Tavik is managing to get that pulse bomb straight onto Zenyatta.
Poor Zenyatta, he's like, I wish my body wasn't metal and magnetic.
Right, exactly. Big disadvantage for Omnix.
That's right. Needs to change the metal composition, man. Too easy for that pulse bomb to stick. Sound barrier for Sweden as Portugal tries to engage yet again, and Swoosh pops that tack visor. Sound barrier for Portugal, though. They're going to try to make their way onto the point they need to. It's 99%. We're into OT for Sweden. Reinforce does get picked off by Gray, so they're sans a tank right now. But Tavik, another pulse bomb, another opportunity for Sweden, and we'll see if they can close this one out right now.
I don't think we're going to have that opportunity, though. It looks like Portugal's going to get control of this point again. And that was Sweden. They thought they had it in the bag, though, as we got up to 99. So they made an offensive play with the sound barrier, trying to rush the bridge. But that time, Portugal was able to play more defensively, knew they had time to disengage. And with the later sound barrier, later tack visor had the better cleanup. So a little bit too aggressive there from Sweden.
True enough. Sound barrier, or rather a transcendence for Portugal now. As I try to hold the point, they're getting up to about 70. It looks like they will be able to push Sweden back. And yeah, it's a lost fight, but again, Sweden has, maybe one more push here, one more push, maybe two, to try to flip this point back again. So it's not quite dire straits yet.
No, it's not. And at least ChipsIron has the Transcendence too. So let's keep an eye on Chips and see what he can do with his timing. As they've got time for a longer approach, they can push this slowly. Don't need to rush in.
There we go. Manitin trying to zone out that bridge. Now the Transcendence for Sweden. As they come in, it's Disco Fever, and its attack visor popped on the side of Portugal. Porthik trying to get something done with this, but Sweden comes in, actually addicted, responding with a couple kills of his own. And the engage for Sweden on the point was a bit scattered. Tavik needs to come up big with this pulse bomb. We are at 99 to 99 right now, and Sweden with the sound barrier might have enough. Nice kill from Tavik. Onto Gray. Another pulse bomb comes in. Addicted does take down Swoosh, but Sweden with the man advantage for the moment. No, I take that back. Portugal getting people on the point in time, and they may claim this point early.
Chips is here on the Sombra. They are going to try and stagger this one out. So Sweden attempting to maintain this control.
This would be quite the hold if they're able to actually prevent it. Sound barrier for Portugal now, and they look like they're ready to close this one out. There goes OT, and Portugal actually takes point A here on Lijiang Tower.
They did. They finally figured it out. When Sweden was on the attack with those support ultimates, we saw Portugal try and withdraw better this round than the last one. And that made a big difference. And Sweden, they didn't look very coordinated on some of those approaches. A lot of the sound barriers, when they overcommitted, when they thought they could just win on that first fight, and then coming back around, Trance was a little bit early. But credit to Kyler as well, who managed to kill Swoosh's soldier in the back lines. And that started the whole snowball process that ended with Portugal in the final fight.
And so here we go into round number 2 on Lijiang Tower, and Portugal ahead. 1 round to 0. It is a best of 3 on control, so if Portugal can win here on the night market, they're going to win the map.
Absolutely, and have they found Sweden's weakness here? If they can force them into the attacking position and get some of those ults out early, it has been a bit of teams preferring the defense and the reactive play here for the most part.
Sweden kind of trying to bottle Portugal up near their spawn a little bit early on in this round. Got to get to the point soon, though. Unlocks in just a couple seconds here, and if they can get position, they can keep them back. So they're going to go ahead and try to take it early. Portugal tries to get there. Looks like Sweden's going to claim the point first.
Yeah, Mosasa was focused down nearly instantly, so no choice but to wait and give up the point.
Chance to come in now, though, for Portugal. Biding their time there. There we go. Now the dive comes in. Mosasa going deep. Needs that support, though. Gets really low. Taken out. The coordination not there for Portugal, unfortunately. Fat does get the boop onto Chips. Knocked him off the edge there, and Sweden comes back with the sound barrier. We'll see if they can hold the point right now.
Such an early sound barrier there. Gray is going to pop the trance. Probably not going to be enough to actually hold this point, though.
Well, you ask, with that Transcendence, who's going to be doing the damage while he's keeping them alive? And the answer is there's just not enough people to do that. Portugal going to have to give up their aspirations on the point for the moment.
Yeah, they are. And also the staggering of the ultimates. ChipsIron going to be getting that Transcendence pretty soon. He'll have it by the time Porthik gets there for the Dragon Blade. So some counterplay will be available unless they can manage to take out Chips very quickly. They've got to focus him down. Portugal knows that. They'll know the Transcendence is coming.
Yeah, just building up that pulse bomb yet again. And there's Swoosh coming in with the Dragon Blade. Takes down Fat immediately. Transcendence for Sweden as Chips tries to keep his team alive. It looks like the attack for Portugal already called off.
Yeah, you have to have such a good read on that scenario. You have to be able to dive the Zenyatta immediately if you want to have success. And they got the Lucio, but it wasn't the target they were really needing to pick off.
True enough. Reinforced, just kind of guarding the door. Reinforcing the door, if you will. He's got that primal rage in case things get hairy. That was not a pun. That was not meant to be a pun. It was a pun anyway.
You did it back to back, Noah.
I can't help it. It just comes to me sometimes. Wow, Mauzasa going down first again. And how many attacks from Portugal have we seen that in? They're going to commit anyway with the sound barrier. Sweden with their own as well. Let's see if they can hold it back. Now Portugal drops that Transcendence. Self-destruct, not catching anybody. Manitin does get the kill onto Horthic though, and reinforce. There's his cue for the Primal Rage as Sweden just tries to claim this point. They're into overtime right now, 99-0. Portugal coming back in now that Mozasa's back to life, but Chips already ready with the Transcendence. No kills coming in quite yet, but there we go. Kyler goes down on the Soldier, and there's the cleanup for Sweden.
Yeah, that should just about wrap it up, Doa. Sweden, when they're on the defensive on the point, have providing this impenetrable hold, and they didn't make the same mistakes last time. Notice this time, Sweden didn't venture out of the point. They didn't try and defend at any of the choke points. Instead, not committing all those ults like we saw over the bridge on Garden. So playing in a more comfortable style. But honestly, both of these teams have been shaky on the attack and much stronger on the defense. But the problem is that when Sweden opens up these maps, they get these initial picks, right? Somebody's getting picked off on the side of Portugal. And so that gives Sweden this defensive advantage for the rest of the point.
You know, a lot of the time it's been Mauzasa too on the Portugal side. You know, he and Gray, according to them, are doing the shot calling for this team. And, you know, when you say, I'm going in, let's go, and then you go in, and everybody's kind of slow to catch up, you get a lot of those situations that we've seen. So here we go, on to Control Center right now, and we will see who takes it. This is a best of 3, so the winner of this round wins the map.
Portugal needs to have a stronger first engagement. This time, no pickoffs, and they're going to get it, trading 1 for 1.
Yeah, that's right. Support's going down on each side. Sweden, though, getting the man advantage here for the moment as they push Portugal back a little bit down the stairs. And although Addicted does take down Swoosh, Sweden in a good position to claim this point early.
Yeah, they are. They picked off basically everybody else. And I think we have to talk about Kyler's positioning a little bit here because it doesn't seem like the defensive matrix is in the right place. And Tavik is finding these cracks in the armor.
You wonder if it's maybe just a little bit too aggressive play. Too much left clicking and not enough right clicking coming out for Kyler, but we'll have to watch him a little bit more. Man, Tavik is just such a good player, man. So elusive on the Tracer. There's the sound barrier. EMP, though, comes in for Portugal to clear that right out, and Kyler immediately with the kill on Zebasai. There we go. EMP into the tack visor, and Portugal should flip this.
Yeah, much better patience that time. Again, the reactive EMP working out, keeping track of that very quick sound barrier that Zebasai was able to get up. And finally, Portugal will put some percent on this control meter.
Yeah. That was a very fast sound barrier, but you know what ult builds even faster, Monty?
EMP.
EMP, yeah, pretty much.
Very true.
Now Portugal on the defense now. Sweden tries to take the point back. We'll see what Swoosh can do with the Dragon Blade.
He's not finding
Where
anybody.
is everybody? Oh, he can't even get one. Meanwhile, his teammates claim a couple kills, so at least Swoosh kind of bottling up the members of Portugal for Sweden to take advantage of. And they may be able to flip this point. That was a bit of an awkward engage, no doubt, but Sweden makes it work.
Yeah, they do. It looked like they were all hiding right there, but Kyler again was far forward while the rest of his team was getting hit by the hit scan from Sweden across the map. And Tavik trying to cause some problems on the side right now, does have to back off with that hacked health back. No chance he's going to win that duel. Still trying to harass on the outside. Addicted forced to recall right there.
And Sweden's got some good ults to work with here too, but Portugal not looking too bad in the ult economy department as well. Transcendence comes in for the Sweden side. There's the sound barrier for Portugal. We'll see what they can do after the ults end. There we go. Self-destruct coming in. EMP for Gray. There's one kill onto Chips. Actually, 2 more coming in for Manitin. Everybody getting self-destructed today, and Sweden cleans up the fight. Man, that was very close to Portugal having a good opportunity, but they just got a little bit too aggressive. They didn't know the self-destruct or was coming in from Manitin and got caught.
And they committed to it too. Manitin did not get EMP'd in that fight, so when the EMP hit, he knew that it was going to be an all-in from Portugal. They used all their movement abilities to dash into the combat, and that meant that they were sitting ducks for a counter self-destruct.
You don't see that very often, but it's fun to see. It's the sound barrier for Sweden now. Again, just trying to hold off Portugal yet again. They're over 90% now, so this is their opportunity to take Lijiang Tower. Gray with the hack onto Swoosh, just trying to keep him down on the ground. And for Mazasa to take advantage of, and Gray actually picks up the kill in the end with that. Tvik on the outskirts of the fight nearly has that pulse bomb yet again, gets the kill onto Horthic though. Ooh, but Kyler comes in for the response, and we're into overtime yet again. Sweden trying to end this right here, right now, but I think they're gonna need to wait. Portugal's gonna flip this point.
Portugal's disengaged when they saw the support ultimate hit them. Absolutely great. Zebasai went ahead and used it early, but they couldn't follow up because the Diva defense matrix and the Winston bubble were clogging the choke point around the front of the map. And now, Swoosh,
Sweden
inching closer to the Dragon Blade.
Yeah, Sweden again, they're in that situation where they've got time, right? They've got time to get a couple more ults, and with Gray actually getting a nice pick onto chips, Sweden's gonna have to back off and play this one a bit more patiently.
Okay, so Swoosh still has the Dragon Blade holding it on right now.
Yep.
And with the early pick from Gray, they are getting that time, even though he did use the EMP. Sweden, though, patient. Wait for the 6 ults. That's what they're doing. They know they have the time and the opportunity.
Exactly. And as long as Zebasai stays safe, they can engage right now and then have a later sound barrier. Swoosh coming in. Sound barrier for Portugal right away. Tvik taken down immediately by Horthic. Sweden fighting this one 5-6. We'll see if they can make it work. Kyler with the kill onto Swoosh, though. I don't think so. And Portugal getting very close now to their own 90%. Reinforced coming back in again, and it is an absolute brawl on the point right now. Zebasai drops the sound barrier, and Sweden with that later defensive ult has a chance to come back in this fight, but it is not a chance that's working out for them, it looks like.
Oh, he has nowhere to go too. Hacked health back, causing him problems. Man. Not going to be able to top up right there. Tvik doing his best to carry on this point.
Tvik's got to put this team Sweden on his back right now if they want to win this round and win the map. It is 99-99. And there's another EMP for Gray, and that might push it over the edge for Portugal. Self-destruct comes in and takes down Kyler, but it's still fairly even on the point. The way the respawns are coming in, this one could take a little while, but I think Portugal may actually have it right here. OT ticking away, Zebasai can't really delay this, and Portugal will actually take the map. We are all... What? Tied up?
Yeah, we're all tied up, and they did just a wonderful job. Again, Sweden's attacks have been so much worse than their defenses when it came to that control point, and that's where we saw the shot calling from Portugal. What they said was their strength really shined through, because the ult economy, Sweden was building up to that 6 ult, and even then they were so uncoordinated, and they were not paying attention to the ults from the Portuguese side. The self-destruct from Kyler working wonders by killing Swoosh and really shutting down that Dragon Blade, but that's not a push Sweden should have lost.
No.
But Portugal reacted very well with the EMP and the self-destruct.
Well, let's take a look at a replay from that last match. And although it is from Tvik and they did end up losing it, man, this guy's Tracer is just a thing of beauty, right? Getting the kill onto Gray there, following it up with the kill onto Horthic. And although they lost the map, for the reasons that you accurately discussed, Tvik, no doubt, a big threat on that Tracer.
Yeah, he was. And this is disturbing for Sweden when they're just sitting on the point. They can play well around each other, but when they're trying to coordinate those attacks, it looked very problematic. And Portugal got way more ult value when playing defense on the points.
That's right. So we're going to take a quick break, guys, and when we come back, the last 2 maps for Portugal versus Sweden. Don't go anywhere. We'll return right after this.
The Overwatch World Cup is brought to you by Omen by HP, T-Mobile, and Blizzard Entertainment.
All that grows must also. What dies and rots will then nourish the living. This is the great cycle of being, and we, the priests of Rathma, use our dark art to protect it. Though most do not understand us, we go where we are needed. My master has learned that a star fell in the west, drawing the dead from their graves. He commands me to journey to Tristram and return them to their rest. For if the cycle is not upheld, it would mean the end of all things.
for this matchup. We have Sweden facing off against Portugal. And boy, is this a good one. This 1-1, all tied up.
Yeah, and I'm a little bit surprised, not gonna lie. I didn't actually think that Portugal is gonna put on such a good show, but they did in the end do so. Yet I also wanna go back to Sweden. We did talk beforehand about, is this gonna be the best team Sweden can produce? And after seeing their performance, yes, I do actually think so. The way they played together was absolutely fantastic. I really, really like how Swoosh as well as Chips worked themselves into this team, and it felt right.
Yeah, they played really strong, and it scared me with their initial performance on Hollywood.
Were you fearful?
I definitely was. But once we got to Lijiang, we noticed that Portugal started to rise to the occasion. They got a little bit more comfortable. Malzasa was able to buy enough time for his teammates on that Winston, just creating space for them. We saw Kyler was making proper adjustments. When Swoosh, he was playing his Soldier 76, he was a lot more free to get the damage off, but then he swapped off onto the Genji, and that's where Kyler was really able to come alive with his D.Va, not having to have that defense matrix up all the time to try and deal with him, and we saw him consistently on the kill feed.
Yeah, I think a lot of this came down to just experience with their compositions. You had Gray playing the Sombra, one of his best heroes. I think he actually has a top 10 and European account just playing Sombra. He knows his way around the hero, and I think that the team plays around him. Him and Malzasa have the better comms, it looks like right now. I mean, you could chalk up Hollywood to a few mistakes, I think. You had Gray playing Sombra on defense, wasn't really able to get anything done. He actually died rather early into that first round, which led to the Sweden snowball. But then on his offense, they came out with this Reaper on Gray, which didn't really work out for them too well. I think that they expected chips on the Sombra, which didn't happen. So it did look, when we got to Lijiang, as if they had a better game plan. Gray's Sombra did a lot of work, especially on Control Center at the end. You saw Tvik looking for health packs. You saw Reinforce looking for health packs. There just weren't any health packs. And then meanwhile, Gray's killing Chipsogen in the backline, and then suddenly you have no Zen, no health packs, and what do?
Yeah, then at that point, you just snowball and you make your way to victory there. Good news, though, for Portugal, man. I mean, coming out of Lijiang, I'm certain Sweden did not expect that at all. I mean, I even was looking at a lot of the comments online, and everyone's saying, oh, boy, here we go, another steamroll or something. And, boy, were we wrong, because Portugal fought back. What's Sweden going to do to adapt here?
I mean, I don't really think they need to adapt per se. Now that they are aware of the individual plays which coming out from Portugal, I think they will show up a little bit stronger in that third match, mostly because it's going to be their map pick, and they will avoid Lunar Colony. I'm almost certain that that's not going to be the map we're going to see. But also, I still felt like Sweden played really, really well. I love Manhattan on that D.Va. I think he created a lot of space for Swoosh as well as Tvik. I mean, Tvik was really dominant in their kill feed. However, I was really surprised with Addicted. At the beginning, we were like, first map, we were like, Addicted is not, his tracking is a bit off. But then he just somehow warmed up and was really, really up there.
Yeah, I really felt like the land jitters kind of came into play for this Portugal squad more so than most other teams here. The first map, they looked really rusty, but taking a control map off of Sweden on this stage is huge for that team.
Yeah, and we were really, concerned about the Addicted Tvik 1v1, because Tvik's a fantastic player, one of the best in the world, dare I say, and then you go up against this guy from Portugal and Addicted, you really don't know what to expect. So, James, I mean, your big takeaway from that, Addicted's performance has been pretty fantastic, especially in Game 2.
He was definitely able to open up a lot more, and that was because of the pressure that Gray created for him, right? When he was on that Sombra, he was consistently hacking onto the enemy Genji. Swoosh just was not able to do anything at all, because every 8-9 seconds the hack was on him. He wasn't able to go in for the dashes, and allowing at that point Addicted to be able to have free reign, have all the mobility up against all the other mobility heroes. He was just able to have free reign in the back.
Yeah, when you give a Tracer space to work with, that's when things start to get a little dicey, no matter who you are. But if you're just joining us, guys, it's all tied up, 1-1, Sweden versus Portugal. And I'm sure for a lot of folks at home, it was not something that they would have expected, unless you're Portuguese, of course, because at that point, you're cheering for them to get that 4-0 victory. But we're going to Game 3, folks, and it's going to be Sweden's pick, which I'm sure was a situation they did not anticipate. Zoe, you mentioned Volskaya Flame. Do you agree? Do you think we see Sweden go to Volskaya and avoid Lunar Colony?
I mean, most of the teams we talked to throughout the week mostly said that Volskaya was going to be the map choice unless they were down 0-2. So I would say that this is probably a scenario where they will pick Volskaya. They do have, it's a Sombra battle now suddenly when you have these two CP maps where you're not sure, is Gray going to outplay Chips? And Chips hasn't shown the Sombra yet, so it might be a little bit of a comfort thing. I'm not sure. I think that they'll probably wind up going to Volskaya though.
All right, guys. Well, we're going to see how this plays out. Lots to talk about, but we're going to go to a break. When we come back, how will this match conclude? Will we end up 2-2, or will we get a 3-1 victory on either side? It's anyone's game at this point, and it certainly is an exciting one. We'll catch you on the other side.
The Overwatch World Cup is brought to you by Omen by HP, T-Mobile, and Blizzard Entertainment.
Always remember that power is a double-edged blade. One side light, the other dark. It calls to you when you are most desperate. When victory seems worth any sacrifice. There is a price to be paid for such a gift. And many eagerly accept the bargain. The righteous and the meek may recoil at its cost. But they have no vision. Power alone is not to be feared. Fear instead those who wield it.
Welcome back, everyone, for the halftime show. Sweden versus Portugal. If you're just joining us, it's 1-1, all knotted up as we get ready for Game 3. And we have, a different situation here with Sweden going into it. There's a possibility that they may go for Volskaya instead of the very common Horizon Lunar Colony, which we've seen before in the past. Now, guys, if you had to pick one player in particular that you think is really going to stand out in Game 3, the spotlight's on you, Zoe. Who do you got?
I go for Manhattan.
Really?
Yeah, because I felt like when we watched Misfits playing in Contenders, what they were missing was that strong diva play. I really felt like Manhattan did show up on Hollywood, definitely. He did create all that space for Swoosh as well as Tvig, and I only think that really enabled him to get all those kills on the board. So Manhattan, for me, is the one to watch out for.
Okay, what about for you, James?
For me, I'm looking at Gray. We're going to see this Sombra versus Sombra matchup, which Chip Cyan does have experience with. He played it a number of times over in Apex with Envy. But Gray, his Sombra has been stand out, and we've seen what Sombras can do when they get onto the point B defense. Having that EMP up almost every single fight, that is the great equalizer. Even if you have the ultimate advantage on the other side, that just shuts it down.
It's funny you mention, I'm actually going through my notes here because you mentioned Gray and the Sombra, and one of the things that actually the Sweden players told us was that if Chips busts out the Sombra, they have full confidence that he will succeed. So that to me tells, it's interesting you note that. That's going to be a tough and a tall order for Gray to have to fight. What about for you, Flame? What are your thoughts?
I really think that this match is actually on Addicted shoulders. He's going to have a lot of pressure on him to compete against Tvik, but he does have Gray on his team to make Tvik's life a little bit more of a nightmare. You try to get the hack off on the Tracer, suddenly no blink, no recall, no pulse bomb. It's over. So he has the help. They're giving him more of the space here. He showed up really big on Lijiang Tower, and now coming to Control, this is definitely his time to shine, and I want to see more.
Interesting that you mentioned Addicted, because we highlighted him before. We said this was going to be a challenge against Tvik. Do you think that Tvik, figured out Addicted at this point?
I think he did, but also I didn't really get the sense that Tvik was looking for those 1v1 scenarios. I did feel like he tried to work more around his team. I didn't really see him singling out Addicted there. So, yeah, let's see.
All right, guys. Well, it's time to see how this one's going to play out. It's all knotted up 1-1. Who will get the upper hand in Game 3? Sweden versus Portugal. Let's send it over to Monty and Doa.
Welcome back. Doe and Monte Cristo here, guys, to close out Sweden versus Portugal. And you know what? We're tied up 1-1. I mean, a lot of us were saying, yeah, people shouldn't underestimate Portugal. But Sweden, again, on paper, just looked like the stronger team. But maybe that's not the case coordination-wise, huh?
Well, Portugal also has been adapting their strategies. We've seen them take different approaches on Hollywood, even though they lost that map. But when we saw Horthic move over to the Soldier, I think the key here for Portugal moving forward is protecting their flanks. How are they losing? It's when they got picked off by Chips or Tavik at the start of these fights, when they were trying to break out into these skirmishes and getting outskilled in the 1v1s. But when we saw Portugal playing well, how was that happening? Move to a poke composition, play as a ball, and then try and force the support ults out of Sweden, because the ult economy has been very bad for them when they've been trying to attack. So get the poke down, play Soldier, go back to that, and make sure Tavik isn't going to be getting into the 1v1s with Addicted.
Sounds good. Well, we are indeed moving into Volskaya Industries. Sweden feeling a bit more confident on that one. They did lose the last map, so it is their map pick that we go here. We've been seeing a lot of Lunar Colony in the World Cup, but this time going back to an old classic.
Well, this one actually does have, especially on point A, some longer sight lines than we see on Horizon. So I think this could go to Portugal's favor. They are at least trying to flash over the Genji right now. I think that wasn't how they won their last map, and might be a bit dicey here, but having a little bit more mobility to that high ground can be effective on defense.
Yeah, we'll see. I don't know if I'd want to be that person driving over there. I mean, you're kind of worried at that point that that robot's just going to step on you.
Why is that robot within the red brick walls right there? I don't understand that. It really doesn't seem to be doing anything for him.
This is my robo-fort.
Is that it?
That's right. That's what he's saying.
It's not containing him, not protecting him in any way. I guess he can't get shot in the feet or something.
Yeah. See, that robot in that poster is like, have you seen the city? I don't know where it is. Is it behind me?
Why is he holding a glowing human being in his hand?
Well, because he's like, hey, check it out. This human being is glowing. You don't see that all the time. Why wouldn't you show somebody a glowing human being if you were a giant robot who came across one?
I guess that'd be my MO, though, if I was a giant robot.
Monte Cristo. Check, mate.
Oh, Tavik. Well, got excited there for a second. Hanzo not normal on this map, but is normal for Tavik.
We know he can play it, but, you know, playing it competitive, that's a whole different story. Here comes Sweden on the attack in the red, Portugal in the blue. As we get things started on Volskaya Industries, Tavik doing what he would normally do on Tracer, trying to find these long-distance flanks, coming in from behind, building that pulse bomb. Maybe an opportunity there on the Fat. Chips goes down early, though. Successful dive for Portugal to start out this defense. And we'll see if they can follow it up. Either way, Sweden not going to be able to push too far forward too quickly.
Portugal was very committed to that attack. And that really worked out well for them, because Tavik had to use his dashes to get all the way back across the point and couldn't really participate in the combat as a result. So Portugal, noticing that Tavik was not going to be there and just jumping on to the front line of Sweden for the 6v5.
You know, I feel like I'm almost seeing Tavik trying a little bit too hard. You know, I feel like I'm watching this guy getting into a mindset where he feels he needs to, like, solo carry this team. And he's good, but he doesn't need to be maybe quite as aggressive as we saw him in that last push. There's a hack on the swoosh, though. Great gets the kill on the Chips. And you know what? This is going to be another successful defense for Portugal.
No more healing.
Nice EMP.
The support line for Sweden going down right at the start of that, so Swoosh will take an ice bath.
Yep. You know, sometimes you got to relax those muscles after a long day of assaulting point A, but if they're robo muscles, I don't know what you do.
Maybe you still have some muscles in that suit, though.
Maybe.
I'm not actually sure how much of Genji is left over. It's a mystery.
More machine now than man.
He's not really twisted and evil,
Twisted and, you know, kind of a nice guy.
Twisted and righteous.
That's right. There you go. That was the name of my metal band in high school. Here comes Sweden on the attack yet again. Reinforce on the point early. We see Portugal taking a little bit of outside defense, and Swoosh coming in with that Dragon Blade. EMP for Gray once again to set up a few more kills, and Portugal just crushing Sweden on this defense.
Yeah, playing around the EMP well again. Great with the timing, allows Horthic to get that cast animation on his ultimate off and then wipe up everybody else. Sweden Coming up on a few more big ultimates, but they are going to have to contest with the sound barrier from Portugal. Swoosh has got to be careful about when he pulls the blade out.
I mean, Portugal has held this very well so far. Sweden, you know, about 1:30 left. You got a good couple attacks, but if they commit right here, this is the big one. Swoosh with the sound barrier to try to make that Dragon Blade work. Has to deal with the Genji on the other side, and Orthic pushes him away. Meanwhile, though, Sweden does get the edge. Kyler gets the kill on the reinforce with the self-destruct, but overall, looks like Sweden is pulling ahead a little bit in this fight. They're getting some control meter built up right now, and as Addicted falls, looks like Sweden is finally going to take point A.
Yeah, long push there. They're going to get it with about a minute remaining, but they found a window without the EMP to strike into, and Swoosh played the flank and got that first pickoff. Closer spawn times for Sweden makes that a bit of an easy cleanup, but they're coming into point B without any support ultimate, so holding on against the stall will be quite challenging. Looks like we're going to be probably coming in for a pretty long attack as Tvik goes back-to-back cap.
Out, yeah, Tvik just building a little bit of control meter up. Malzahsa really low, has to run if Tvik can get him. No, he can't quite do it. Gets hacked, gets cut down. Gray there, just in time with that Sombra to save Malzahsa.
Yeah, the EMP cutting off the members of Sweden from that attack. So Tvik did what he could, thought maybe there's a chance I can pick up a point here, or a tick rather, but couldn't quite pull it off. Yeah. Nothing better to do, however. Still a good move considering the situation.
Yeah, and Sweden can go for a couple economy pushes here. We'll see how much they want to dedicate to it. There's a Primal Rage, Reinforced, dedicating his ultimate to this fight. As we see a brawl on the point right now, Dragon Blade comes out for Portugal. Orthic looking for victim. Zebasai taken out by Gray in the back lines. Gray is getting extremely good at seeking out these supports in the back lines.
I mean, I think honestly that Gray is probably the best Sombra player in the West from what we've seen, and that goes to prove he's doing an excellent job over this series and confounding many of Sweden's assaults.
Yeah, but if you look at Sweden again, you know, they didn't dedicate any ultimates to that besides the Primal Rage. Still kind of going for those economy pushes. The duel with Tvik trying to stay alive. Oh, he's gonna stick. Oh no, he blew himself up. There was a sound barrier on that monkey, man. You can't do that. Kyler with the kill onto Swoosh as well, and now Sweden, I think, in a bit of trouble. They used a couple ults on that, and they didn't even get a single tick.
Tvik was out of blinks and out of rewind and out of luck.
That was
at the end there.
Oh, that was rough. He didn't expect to see Malzahsa right there, but
well, he was thinking he could actually pull off the bomb at the end of the sound barrier because it was ticking down, but unfortunately not going to be the case. Gray with another EMP right now. Zebasai.
EMP for Gray, yeah, again. Sweden falls back, they lose Zebasai immediately here. Malzahsa stomping him flat, and Sweden has to pull back yet again and reset. And Tvik just killing himself just to get the team back, get back to the team a little bit earlier.
Yeah, at least Zebasai didn't get the sound barrier canceled. So if you're Portugal, you're going to be feeling pretty strong coming into this next assault. But you're far away from the Dragon Blade. You'd love to have that right now to pair with your sound barrier.
Yeah, Gray once again getting set up. Sound barrier actually used by Sweden as they come in. There's a hack immediately onto the Genji, I believe that was, as they go into the point right now. Kyler gets two actually with the self-destruct, popped Manitin out of his mech at least anyway. Takes out Reinforce on the way, and man, Portugal, again, a very strong defensive effort here. Sweden did come in and take point A at the very end of that push, but a little bit tougher to do that here on point B, Volskaya.
It is, and the ult economy is just going great for Portugal. They're playing around the EMP. This is where the shot calling from Gray will really start to shine, because as they can stagger that fight for fight, save their other ultimates, and just alternate on those pushes, they're going to have a very strong time. And Zebasai uses the sound barrier. It's a hard decision to make, and Tvik getting picked off, it'll just delay this a little bit more.
Yeah. Just mentioning Gray again, this has just been such a strong Sombra game that we've seen out of this guy.
See you later.
And we're seeing him play. We're seeing him and the rest of Portugal play with a lot more confidence, I feel like, after winning that control map. Just some moves they've been making. You don't see the sort of the fear, the hesitation that we saw in Hollywood.
And you see better coordination. They're not getting picked off. They've changed it up.
We go again. The EMP comes out as the sound barrier for Portugal drops as well. Kills immediately. That kill feed is all blue versus red, man. That was a devastating defense by Portugal.
Fat didn't actually need to drop the sound barrier there because Gray already had the position on the point, but this is going to be a brutal Diva stagger.
Oh no, poor Manitin. Yeah, that's going to cause Manitin to spawn a lot later than the rest of his teammates, and that's going to just slow everything down at a time when they need to move fast. They've only got about 35 seconds left.
But they do have a strong push coming in. Because the EMP and sound barrier were used simultaneously, Sweden does have a window. They didn't commit anything. They have a nano-boosted Dragon Blade, and Portugal has 0 support ults. So Sweden has a very strong attack. They have to make it work now.
Sure enough, here we go. Sweden coming in. They need this to work, and Swoosh gets one already with the Nano Blade, but they need more. There's a nice sleep into a kill on Mozasa. Sweden finally finding an opportunity here. They're building that control meter up. How long can Portugal delay? They've got some ults to use for this, and Kyler getting the kill onto Swoosh with the self-destruct is a pretty decent start. Sweden comes in with the Diva ult as well. Again, just trying to build that control meter, but Portugal has the respawns.
And that's it. Horthic is going to be able to clean this one up. Tavik so low on the side, but the respawns are going to be overwhelming for Portugal. Sweden couldn't execute in that one window that they had.
They used everything they had, and you know, I guess they didn't have the sound barrier at that point, but that is it. Sweden without a single tick at that point B.
That was
hurts.
so close at the end.
Yeah.
To getting that first tick and at least having something, but this is looking pretty good for Portugal. You get the one tick on point B, so it's going to have to be a very all-in defense here from Sweden. Are they going to put chips onto the Sombra?
I mean, if you lose point A as Sweden right now, you've almost certainly lost the map, because while it is difficult to take point B on Volskaya, it's generally not too tough to get at least that first tick.
Yeah, it was a stalwart defense for sure from Portugal, and they're showing that they've made those adaptations. The team is discussed. They've decided that they weren't going to try and take those 1v1s that saw them lose Hollywood. Wow. And the silly pickoffs have ended, and that was Sweden's way into the first 2 maps, and there was really no crack in the defense of Portugal.
A lot of somber faces on the side of Sweden, so they're going to try a Sombra face.
A Sombra face for somber faces.
Instead of somber, now Sombra, yeah. I like that a little bit better. Chip Cyan finally bringing out that Sombra. We'll see what they can do with it.
He has shown on this hero in the past. Yeah. But it's going to have to be a very good defense from Sweden.
Well, Chips was one of the better early Sombra players. We saw him, you know, when you and I were casting Apex Season 2 on Envious. He certainly put that to good use at a time when not a lot of people were playing the Sombra.
And it's interesting, Portugal. I wonder if Horthic is actually going to commit to the Reaper and Gray over on the Ana. And there would be another short-range composition, but Gray would be pretty vulnerable to dive in the backline. And Tavik would have a field day as long as that sweet dart.
That sweet dart.
Looking for it. Hope we do get some sweet darts in this one.
Hey, well, if Chips was on Ana, I'm sure we would, but maybe Gray could deliver too. Here we go. Horthic on that Reaper, something we don't see too often.
It's just going to be a brawl on the point.
Yeah.
Flank around the side using the Lucio speed boost.
Yeah, just trying to shield their way for them to get on the high ground, and now they're going to drop down and force that close range engage with Sweden. At least that's the idea anyway.
Yeah, Horthic can't really get onto the point though, so it's going to have to be a later attack, and they're coming in against these hacked health packs.
Yeah, the idea is to zone out Sombra so she can't re-hack it, but they need to stay alive here. Horthic a little bit low. Portugal back on the point yet again. Horthic still looking for those kills. And again, look at this. They're just guarding that health pack, trying to make it so that Chips can't get back to it. But you need to kind of keep people alive while you do that. And this is kind of stalled out a little bit. Yeah, Chips did get the hack on it. So it was a nice attempt by Portugal, but they might need to kind of rethink things.
I mean, they're just eating so much poke. So, but can they use this nano boost? That's going to be the main question. They're waiting for this defense matrix to wear off, and they're actually going to use it onto Addicted.
Wow, I don't know if that was really what they had in mind here. He's going to go ahead and pulse bomb anyway. No kills with that, though. Going to back away, and Swoosh comes in with a kill with the tac visor, a couple of them, in fact. And something didn't work the way Portugal wanted to there. I don't know if you want to necessarily put the nano boost onto the Tracer.
Man, I thought, Doa, that they were going to commit it to the Reaper just because they had waited so long for the defense matrix to run out, and you could have just melted through the Diva and tried to control the point, but instead, Addicted doesn't actually get that much work done, and Horthic is going to switch over to the Soldier.
Now, that was a bit odd. Portugal resetting now. Still 2 minutes left to make things work. They do have the sound barrier. And you do generally rebuild that nano boost on Ana very quickly, so they'll have it again fairly soon. Trying to come in on the left side now.
Yeah, I would have just run this first. The poke has been working really nicely for Portugal.
Yeah.
You don't need to get fancy here. Just instead, keep poking, get that nano boost like you say, and just build up to that nano boost attack visor.
That's right. Here we go, coming in. Malzasa going down early, though, again, before the sound barrier used. And Portugal trying to attack short-handed. Sweden just bottles them up in the room. Ooh, they throw in the self-destruct. Anything from that? Nope. But Reinforce does get the knockoff onto Kyler. And that is going to be it. Whoa, Reinforce going for play of the game right here with that Winston, I guess. Well played indeed.
No place for them to retreat. Very obvious where they were going. Reinforce jumps onto the low ground, plays the janitor, cleans him up, and Gray now going to be in a bit of a desperate situation. Where is he going to use this nano boost? It might have to go on to Mozasa.
Yeah, we'll see. Portugal with a minute left now. Sweden, no else to work with, but they're going to have the EMP pretty soon, because if you're Sombra, you always have the EMP pretty soon. Ready to go in now. Sweden on that high ground over there. Good place to stay.
It's going to be
nice pick on the Zebasai. Great start for Portugal. That's exactly what they needed as they come in here, but there's the EMP for Chips. Is it enough? Maybe not. Try that attack visor.
And the hack, that's actually crucial. It's going to delay the actual attack visor. Probably not going to be enough, but the Horthic will fall.
Man. They got it before he could ult. Horthic really needed that. Portugal really needed that. And Sweden, although things started out really shaky with Zebasai going down, it looks like they might be able to just full hold. There is only 20 seconds left now for Portugal, and they're still waiting for respawns.
That was an incredibly clutch flank from Chips High End to get the hack off that stopped Horthic from turning the tides.
Yeah.
They're going to get one more shot at this, but it's going to have to be a direct assault. No flanks, no trying to run around to the high ground. Horthic sprinting up there, but he's going to get zoned out.
Well, Chips nearly with the EMP. He has the EMP again already. There's attack visor. Popped early by Horthic right now. They need to take point A. EMP comes in. Chips drops. Horthic with a couple kills. And Sweden trying to buy time with that self-destruct. But Portugal has the edge here. It looks like they're going to probably be able to take point A unless Reinforce can come up with a huge play with this Primal Rage. Nope, sound barrier though for Portugal. And that should be about it. So in overtime, Portugal will finally take point A, it looks like.
Well, we're going to see, Doa. That was actually some pretty important kills from Reinforced, but the closer spawn timer should mean eventually that this goes over to Portugal.
You know, maybe we spoke too soon. People getting back from the respawn really fast for Sweden. And you got to give a lot of credit to Tvik for keeping this alive for the red team. Portugal coming in again, though, and it looks like the numbers are just a little bit too great. That was very close. Sweden nearly brought that back, but Portugal's going to take point A.
Sigh of relief for Sweden, though. We really saw Portugal have to use everything to take the point, so it's going to be a rebuilding of ultimates on the side of Portugal right now. And Nano Boost, again, is going to have to go onto Mozasa if they want to make an early play onto point B.
Here we go. They are going to give the nano boost to Malzasa right off the bat. Sweden drops that sound barrier as Portugal comes in. Remember, Portugal only needs that first tick, and they are halfway there already. They're getting the kills they need, and they may have the win here on Volskaya right here. Tvik desperately trying to keep his team back in it. Manitin on the point again, but there's that tack visor for Horthic, and that is going to be it. Portugal will win Volskaya, and they have a 2-1 lead over Sweden.
Absolutely fantastic from Portugal, clutching it out. And the combination of the nano boost onto the Winston, the self-destruct, zoned everybody off the point from Sweden. No real response possible. And when you only need that one tick, those two ultimates can buy you the space you need.
That is so frustrating for Sweden, too, to come so close to full holding point A, and then in the end just barely kind of lose it. Let's take a look at one of the great plays from that game, because that was an exciting map on Volskaya. It's going to go ahead and be Malzasa with that Primal Rage right at the end, and This was just one of the many ways where Portugal was able to get in there with the dive and kind of take advantage to a little bit less coordination than we're used to from a lot of the players on Sweden.
Well, both of these teams are playing defense much better than they're playing offense over the course of this series, and you really see it coming through. Barely, you know, a pretty late take on point A for Sweden, and then the overtime take from Portugal. But I think you just got to look back to the way that they're reacting to each other, and Sweden. Yeah. They're overcommitting to ult usage a lot of the time, and that's causing some issues.
Yeah, and we saw such great Sombra play from Chipshayan in that last defensive round. I mean, he really did everything he could.
Yeah.
He, both and Tvek, I think, are the two who are really trying to carry Sweden right now. But it's a team game, right? You need a little bit more than that. And right now, Portugal has that cohesion that they kind of said they were going to have coming into this week, and it's paying off big time. We're going to go to Dorado for our final map in this series, and now, I didn't think I'd be saying this going into it, but this is Sweden's chance to tie up this series. The best they can hope for is a tie here. Portugal looking for the 3-1 victory.
Yeah, that stunning result if that actually goes through. But even the 2-2 will make sure that this group is extremely close. So
seriously.
We look at the way that Australia won very decisively. And honestly, even though I would say that Italy was the weaker opponent in this group,
sure,
you really look and you say Australia is, with the way that everybody's playing, definitely the favorite by a large margin right now. They've been playing significantly more disciplined, which we expect with them coming as a whole unit. But the problems with Sweden just continue. I mean, we look at Misfits results, fantastic individual players, but even with a couple mix-ups right here in that roster, the actual teamwork has not been good.
And it's surprising, you know, you and I have watched these players on Team Sweden for a long time, as has, you know, most of the Overwatch community, and we know how good these guys can be. So it's kind of weird. It's like you look like you have all the pieces to the puzzle, but then when you try to put it together, there's just like some spaces there. Like, what am I missing here? I thought I had everything.
The dog ate some of the pieces, and they can't even put the puzzle together anymore.
There you go. Tragedy
in Sweden.
If only puzzles had been invented in Shakespeare's time, he would have written something about that for sure.
I actually don't know if they had Elizabethan puzzles.
Well, did they have Elizabeth at the time? That's probably your answer right there.
Well, we'll see. I mean, Portugal, at least, coming back and with 4 relatively unknown players melded to the Laser Kittens roster that has been working out for them so far, showing that the coordination that they've built up from their practice, able to overcome potentially the individual play here from a star-studded roster like we see from Sweden.
That's right. And so here we go to Dorado, the final map, the escort map of this 4-game set. And a chance for Sweden to tie things up, a chance for Portugal to take a 3-1 win here, which would be pretty impressive and make for a very, very exciting Group C.
We're
hey,
back.
It's us again.
We're back.
This is a casual dose. See, I've got my...
You unbuttoned it a little bit right there.
Right, hands in my pockets.
That's right.
That's how I like to cast.
Yeah. Hands in the pockets. Keep it contained. You don't want to get too excited and start waving around.
That's right. I'm like, oh my gosh, these plays.
Yep. I'm going to put you in a straitjacket next time.
I've done it to myself. My hands are super glued in here, actually. I take no chances. If I have to take my headset off, I have to like try to hook it around Monty's and just kind of like...
It has ended up in some uncomfortable situations.
So, you know, it happens. We've been casting a long time. Hey, we're back. Whoa, okay. We've got a little bit of action underway here, I guess. Portugal on the defense, Sweden on the offense here as they try to push this payload. Portugal with a pretty far forward defense. And it looks like, for now anyway, Sweden is able to kind of take advantage of that early pick onto Gray, and Tvik finding those flanks on the outside. The high ground has been pretty well contested by Sweden at this point.
Interesting that they wanted to play that far forward when they had the Ana combined with the Zenyatta there. Usually Ana used for more passive defenses, but Sweden going to be rolling right through this first point on the market, and Portugal not going to be in a very good position to defend it all on point A.
Yep. That might be a pretty quick point A take for Sweden here.
Well, I wish we had seen the beginning of that, but that's fine. I'm not exactly sure why things ended up that way, but we are going to see Portugal try for at least one more engagement, even though they have been zoned out.
And here comes Swoosh with the Dragon Blade. Now we'll see what he can get. Gray goes down very early. It seems like he's been picked pretty consistently so far in this map. That Ninja flying the way that he didn't really want to, and Portugal coming back a little bit on this defense. But, you know, then Zebasai frags out on Lucian. He's like, all right, I'm pushing this. I'm becoming the bloodthirsty support. This is my time. Yes.
It was a nice boop from Fat to sort of stop the resets from the Dragon Blade, but unfortunately too many members had already gone down. That will be point A. Orthic's going to throw his old man body at the payload to try and slow it down for just a little bit longer.
His old man body.
That's right. That's what he's got.
Pretty much. Well, does he though? He's more machine now than man.
No, soldier.
Oh, okay.
No, sorry.
He's more man now than machine.
He's only a little bit machine, right, with that mask.
He's a little bit machine and mostly man.
My ultimate is
Twisted and, well, just old, I guess. I don't know.
All right, well, let's see what Portugal's got. At least they're going to be able to hold the high ground here. Swoosh poking around the side. It's Vic looking for the angle.
Yeah, sometimes you can get that pulse bomb in on those high ground defenses, but not this case. Ooh, trying to get that kill on Zen, but he has to back away. Sweden with the sound barrier, trying to push this payload forward a little bit, but they've got that primal rage from Malzasa to deal with. He backs up as it ends, and even though they still hold the high ground, that payload has moved. Now you got to do something about it, though. Chips with the kill there, and Portugal trying to hold it. Swoosh trying to break the stalemate with this Dragon Blade as Gray falls. There goes Fast as well. And that should be Sweden pushing ahead.
Much more decisive this time. Dragon Blade saved until they ran Portugal out of some ultimates. And now Portugal, they're still going to be able to defend those. This is probably going to be a slower push through point B, despite the stagger, because you do have support ults up, and Sweden had to commit absolutely everything. That was a bit of a chaotic engagement from both teams.
Sure enough, Sweden getting very close to point B here. Portugal, we'll see if they go for a bit of a last-ditch defense. They're going to go for it. Coming in, Zebasai backs away, wanting to stay safe here. Transcendence for Portugal, but Sweden can just kind of back up here. Portugal really trying to force the issue here. They're getting the kills, though, to make it work, so this might be it. Zebasai just trying to stick on the payload for as long as he can, but I think Portugal's going to finally stabilize a little bit here.
Again, though, we saw Fat drop the sound barrier very late and a bit unnecessarily. They've been able just to use the Transcendence right there. They'd have a better chance of having a long hold on this point. Yeah. He's going to have to reset to get his mech back at the end of it. Sweden, they've got the sound barrier, but their use of it on attack has been a bit suspect.
Vic back on the point. Immediately again, sound barrier for Sweden. People were getting a little bit low here. Gonna wait out that primal rage. Actually, why not just kill Mozas? I suppose that works as well. No kills from the self-destruct, but it does give Portugal time to get onto the point right now. Gray finds the kill onto Reinforce, and Tavik again, waiting for that pulse bomb. May not even need it though. And Sweden looking like they're in a pretty good position to close this one out, but the respawns are coming in, and there's Orthic with the ult, but nope. Not gonna get a whole lot done with it, not with Swoosh. Getting in there with the left click. And Sweden, a long drawn-out fight on the point here, but it looks like they're finally gonna grind their way through to point B.
They are, and had Portugal at least saved that sound barrier, that's fantastic.
That was maybe not totally necessary, but it feels good.
I think it's great. You're going to get a lot of room on the payload right now because they do have to wait for the soldier to reset and respawn, and you're not going to have high ground control right now if you're Portugal either. So
you can get up to that high ground safely, and it takes the payload so long to get through there, though. Yeah, you can see him already up there again. Here comes Swoosh with the Dragon Blade. Transcendence, looks like from both teams. And Swoosh not finding any targets with that one. That is rough for Sweden.
They're not working with a lot, though, right now, as Addicted picks up the kill, so he's going to keep going. Self-destruct will allow them to push the payload a few more meters before Mozasa can get back on it.
Yeah, anything you can get at this point is good. I mean, it's so hard to finish this map as the offense, so you're happy with any inch you can get here.
Tavik keeps finding his way into the support line. Portugal breaking down.
Oh, anything? No. Tavik does go down. Portugal fighting back here. Chips getting a little bit aggressive now, but he's fairly low health. Has to be careful. Sweden again, just trying to grind their way forward.
Was at least protected by the defense matrix from the Diva, and it keeps moving.
All right, Dragon Blade, sound barrier, everybody running back into spawn for Portugal. Swoosh deciding to not stick around there. Zoned him out well enough. Now Portugal coming back with their own sound barrier. Sweden with the Transcendence, and they are so close to finishing this one. They really need to do it right here, right now, and Portugal pushing back. They lost Horthic early on. Self-destruct not picking up anything.
Sweden's just playing it too early, Doa. When you use that sound barrier, they didn't have a great read on where the members of Portugal were. So it was easy for them to sprint right back into spawn and make sure that that Dragon Blade and the sound barrier were basically used for only a couple of meters on the payload. And if you're going to make that trade, there's a long hold yet to have here. Right. The minute and a half left. And again, when it comes to those engagements, Sweden is really coming up short.
So now you're in that tough spot if you're Sweden, where you have a minute left. The payload is in one of the worst places to push, and you don't have a ton of ultimates to use. They're going to go for it. You got to go for it. Manitin coming up on the high ground, just trying to push Portugal back, try to get that payload going, but Portugal already contesting here. Picks up on that high ground, and there's a self-destruct. Nice angle. Does he get anyone with it? No, not quite. Zones Portugal off for the moment and creates a couple opportunities for Sweden. They're going to need a little bit more. That payload not quite moving yet, but maybe now's the time. No, after the Transcendence is done, see what they can get happening.
Yeah, it looks like they are going to be able to get it right through to the end. So only Gray and Kyler left alive. So Sweden pushes it all the way to point C. They had a lot of time to work with. And most of it drained off of the clock right now. So Sweden going to be feeling okay with that one. Certainly could have gotten it through faster with a little bit more patience.
I think Manitin was really great at the end of that push, getting up on the high ground, kind of forcing Portugal back into that little room, and that created a lot of space for Sweden to get the picks that kind of led to that win.
Well, they had an opportunity before, but again, the shot calling has been sloppy. If they just forced Portugal on their second to last push to commit to actually getting onto the payload, then the sound barrier and the Dragon Blade would have had a lot more value.
Yeah.
But instead, they simply let them walk back into spawn and present virtually no threat to them. So it could have been faster, but Sweden does finish the map with 36 seconds remaining.
True enough. And so you're seeing it right there on the map. That's what Portugal needs to do just to force a time bank round here on Dorado. If they can't do it, Sweden will have achieved the tie. If they can, then at least Portugal's bought themselves a chance to still win this series.
I can't wait.
Yeah, split here. You know, there's a lot of questions about the rest of this match and its implications on this group here at the Overwatch World Cup. And if there's a tie, there's a very realistic situation that we could end up in a tiebreaker on Sunday between these two teams.
It would be interesting. That, of course, is a best of 3 on Oasis if we end up needing to have that tiebreaker later on in the week. So Sweden on the defensive course, Portugal on the offense. Looks like they might be going for a couple little tricky picks here with the Hanzo the Widowmaker. Might just take a couple shots and then swap over.
It's just a punishment right here. They are going to see Tavik with the Sonic Arrow when they pop it out. So they're going to get that information as we see Gray going to actually commit to this. He knows where Tavik is.
Yeah, going to give it a try.
Well, he nearly killed Tavik right there. That was extremely close.
Oh, Gray actually sticking with that Widowmaker for the moment. Is he actually going to back away?
So he forced the rewind out, and then Horthic got onto the high ground to finish Tavik off. That was very well played by Portugal. So he hit the shot, but didn't get the kill, but the follow-up was there.
That gives Portugal a ton of room to push.
That was super smart.
Yeah.
That's how you use Widowmaker on the offense. Gray going to switch over to the Zenyatta Force now, but that's basically free movement on the payload.
You know, and that's how you use that shot calling from the Laser Kittens players of Gray and Malzahn. Worked out great. Pushing ahead here, Sweden scattered a little bit. They have to try to defend here in the plaza now.
That's going to force it off. And at least the D suit will be there for Portugal. No front line here for Sweden right now. They can't easily contest the payload without the suited D.Va and their Winston.
Well, Sweden just seems so scattered right now. They lost their front line. They lost their supports now. And Horthic really kind of coming alive towards the end of the series, too.
Yeah, he is. And the coordination, great from Portugal. Like, that's a hard thing to pull off. But when you punish them because Sweden was playing far forward and Tavik was not in line of sight of his healers to actually get the help he needed, You just follow it up one after another, get the rewind out, and then have the Genji finish him off after the duel up top. That was a beautiful play by Portugal.
Absolutely. Couple ults to keep their push going through the streets phase here on Dorado. Good time so far. Sweden up on the high ground, and here comes Horthic dropping down with that Dragon Blade. Vic with a kill into Addicted already, but Horthic trying to equalize. Transcendence comes out, and Reinforce very low on the outside of this fight. Chased down by Horthic, and Portugal should be able to keep pushing this payload. Yeah, Sweden, you can see them kind of trying to get to the back lines, but it seems like it's a little bit too late for that to work out.
Yeah, it is. They're going to be forced off the payload eventually as Zebosai is cut down by Horthic. Still a good stall, though, from Sweden, and you're going to be okay with that loss if you're Sweden, because, again, Gray and Fat both used their ultimates in one team fight. So now you're going to have a lot more opportunities if you're Sweden to stall out this payload. The support synergy between Zebosai and Chips, I think, has been a bit better than between Gray and Fat so far when it comes to coordinating those ultimates, because Portugal's been they've been a little bit too trigger happy with those simultaneously instead of trying to conserve them and use them one for each fight, right?
Yeah, you definitely don't want to layer Transcendence and Sound Barrier. You just don't get a lot of benefit from that. Great backing away here too. Dragon Blade comes out to Vic, drops that Pulse Bomb with no kills, it looks like. Swoosh looking for it. That's two big offensive assaults or offensive ultimates used by Sweden with not a lot of benefit. Reinforce able to do a little bit. They at least bottled up Portugal, and so Sweden might be able to take a defensive fight here.
Yeah, there's really no defense for Portugal against big offensive ultimates being used by Sweden. You're trying to reset right here. It's going to be a slow push through point B if you're Portugal because of how much you committed right at the start.
Well, it's just nice zoning by Sweden, right? I mean, they didn't get kills out of those initial DPS ultimates, but they at least put Portugal in the position where they were kind of bottled up and easy to take down.
Yeah, absolutely. And now we are going to have Sound Barrier complete and up for Team Sweden.
Yeah, both ultimates actually on the support side. There's a Sound Barrier used Transcendence for Portugal now. And wow, long range kill on a Reinforce from Addicted. Got those last couple hit points out with the left click. Sweden comes into the Transcendence. Nice stick, he gets Zebosai with that. And Portugal rolling forward here. Tvik can't equalize with his own Pulse Bomb. And man, Portugal just rolling Sweden right now.
Another Sound Barrier from Sweden that really was ineffective. It just seems like Sweden cannot coordinate around attacking Sound Barriers in this series. And had they saved it, had they been a bit more conservative and allowed Portugal to come down, it could have been a different story.
Really feels that way, doesn't it?
Speaking of Sound Barriers, I'm not sure what that one was.
Yeah, that was just not useful at
Against
all, man.
one player coming to stall the card out when you still have several minutes left on the clock, you can't be making those kind of mistakes.
Well, Fat may come to regret that one a little bit later, but either way, Portugal's given themselves about as much time as you can give yourself here on point C on Dorado.
Sound Barrier usage really awkward from both teams on point B.
Hasn't been a great match for support ultimates in general. Dragon Blade gets pulled out by Swoosh. Portugal with the Transcendence immediately to try to counteract that, and they will. Horthic actually getting the kill on the opposing Genji, and Sweden a bit routed at this point. Reinforce does get the return kill, but he's going to go down, and that payload should keep moving as soon as they, deal with Chips.
They're still trying to chase some of the members back from Team Sweden right now. The D-suit on Manitin does build up his ultimate again, so we'll resuit here pretty shortly.
Yep.
Addicted peeking around, seeing if there is anybody going to be flanking around the side of the payload. Portugal waiting for the remaining members, and Kyler got to get back in his suit. Yep. Nice kills.
Whoa, Manitin just lobbing that self-destruct over the top in an angle that Portugal did not expect. That's going to buy some time for Sweden.
Everybody has to reset on Portugal right now. Horthic sitting at a paltry 2%. Now, no big offensive ultimates from Portugal going to be coming in on this push, but they do have 2 minutes. So how are they going to play this? They're going to try and go for the 6 ults. That's still definitely a possibility. Addicted, let's see if he can get a pick and how much they want to commit to be successful with his Pulse Bomb.
Yeah, he's had some good ones on this attack round already. Maybe an opportunity to go to the left there. We'll see. Chips. Oh, Chips finds him. Pops that Transcendence just in case. And I don't think he was expecting to get the kill on Addicted right there.
He was not.
That was a reactive Transcendence, like an I'm gonna die Transcendence, not a I just killed Tracer, so here's my celebration Transcendence. Yeah.
He's just partying, man. turn on the disco lights after you,
it feels good, you know?
right-click the tracer in the head.
That's right. Staying alive, you know? Well, Sweden does get the fight win in the end and pushes back Portugal a little bit. Now things getting a little bit scary for Portugal. They've only got slightly over a minute remaining. And as Kyler resets there, Portugal thinking about, you know, okay, we don't have a lot of ultimates. What are our last couple pushes going to look like?
Yeah, Sweden that time really playing conservatively and not overusing, holding onto the Dragon Blade, even holding onto the Pulse Bomb, which is a bit of a rarity, but one more tool on a push that may just come up here short here for Portugal.
Yep, they need Addicted to come up big with this Pulse Bomb. Looking for opportunities there. He's kind of by his team. He's getting protected by the defensive matrix. They do, I believe, force Manitin out of the Diva suit. Yeah, they do. And that's exactly what Portugal was looking for. A couple early kills coming in. And if they can beat Sweden handily in this fight, they can push that payload a lot. There's a Dragon Blade, of course, for Horthic as well. Horthic cutting people down, and Portugal able to win that fight. That payload is moving. Sweden with one last defense. Maybe they can get there in time.
Well, they have the Dragon Blade, Doa. There's no protection. Gray has switched over to the Soldier to get back. Swoosh has got to make it work.
He's got to make it back lines. Takes out Fat immediately. Horthic trying to defend the rest of his team right now. Getting back there. Swoosh pops Kyler out of the mech. Zebasai with a couple. Fragging out on that Lucio. And Sweden may just barely have what it takes to hold this one. We're going to be into overtime. We are, and Malzasa alone on the point right now. Transcendence almost saves Zebasai, but not quite. And Sweden, despite that, win the fight. They hold in overtime, and that is going to be Sweden taking Dorado and at least forcing that tie in this 4-map set.
Sweden's retreat before that last fight was absolutely crucial because Swoosh had died to Mozasa, and he's died with the Dragon Blade still up. So there was a chance for them to get back. Had Reinforced died, not been able to re-engage back onto the point and buy that little bit of time, it could have been a push for Portugal, but Swoosh made the play that was absolutely clutch at the end and crucial. Dragon Blade gets the kills, and they're able to cleanly end that map.
Yeah, I gotta say, I mean, it looked a bit awkward for Sweden throughout a lot of that series, but at least when it really came down to it, they were able to force the tie instead of the loss. And how about this entrance for Portugal, man? A team I think a lot of people weren't taking too seriously, but after this one, I think they're absolutely going to need to be treated like a serious threat by the rest of the teams in this group.
Yeah, they surely are, and especially if Gray and Fat, I think, can get more on the same page about how they're going to use those ults, because honestly, Portugal was just a couple of holding sound barriers away from actually taking that map. It ended up being very close, but having that kind of superior support ult economy management, I think, really did push Sweden over the top.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, if you think about the amount of time that those support ultimates covered, and if you think if that time had been extended slightly, that's another person on your team that doesn't die, that's another fight that maybe is won.
Yeah, and even just saving them for a different fight, right? They just seemed like they weren't on the same page about how many resources to use in a particular engagement, but staggering those could make a big difference.
Sure enough. Well, great set of maps. We're going to take a break, guys, and when we come back, more Overwatch action here on the 2017 World Cup. See you then.